Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NBA Trade Zone podcast, where we talk all things NBA trades, past, present, and future. Hi, guys. My name is Daniel.
And I am Sebastian. And in the spirit of the upcoming New Year's, we're going to be talking about some New Year's resolutions for every NBA team, which this episode we are going to be starting off at the Eastern Conference, and our next episode we are going to focus more on the Western Conference. We decided to be starting out today with the teams that are at the bottom of the conference standings according to today's standings. And then we're going to work our way up all the way to the number one team, which are the Toronto Raptors. We're just going to discuss what we think this team needs, not only trade specific, but also other ways that this team can be improved. So we'll start with the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are currently 8-27. And Danny, what is on your Cleveland Cavaliers wish list?
Well, I think their wish list is pretty easy. Find trade partners for some of their guys on their roster that aren't part of the future. Specifically, J.R. Smith, Jordan Clarkson, I think, is a name that has not been thrown around, but I think a name that should be thrown around. Same as Tristan Thompson. Those are two names that they have 2 more years remaining on their contracts, including this one. But I think if they could find trade partners for those players and it could accumulate more draft assets, they should do it rather than holding on to them. I don't think those guys are a part of their future. Same thing with Rodney Hood, and very specifically, I think Kevin Love. If you could find a trade partner for Kevin Love, get a first-round pick, you do it real quick before he becomes untradeable. And I think that might happen sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I also think, and this is going to be for the first few Eastern Conference teams, I think trying to get that number one pick would be really important as well, just because you would have the option of taking the player in the draft that you think is going to best fit your team. Obviously, the name that's going to be thrown out there the most would be Zion Williamson, but there's also other pretty talented players that maybe if a team doesn't necessarily believe Zion's the number one choice, they could go with somebody else. Okay, so let's move on to the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks are in a similar situation. They're currently 9-26. That means they are 1 game in front of the Cleveland Cavaliers. I would say the first thing on their wish list would be get rid of Tim Hardaway's contract and maybe even get an asset for it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think getting rid of his contract is important. The thing about depending on it could either be him or Courtney Lee, because both of them, I think as long as you trade one of them, you'll be able to realistically open up some cap space. Enough cap space for a max contract, for one max contract for this offseason. Coming up with coming up with enough cap space for 2 contracts will be extremely hard for the Knicks, but one is reasonable, and one would be enough if they traded Courtney Lee or Tim Hardaway. I think something else for them might be pretty similar. Perhaps trying to find a trade partner for a lot of their guys who are on expiring contracts, including guys who are playing well, like Emmanuel Mudiay, Noah Vonleh, Enes Kanter, Trey Burke, perhaps. Finding that and as well. I mean, getting something in return for them. Something, draft picks, maybe another young player who's on a cheap contract, who's on a long-term contracts. I mean, depending on Emmanuel Mudiay has been playing pretty much out of his mind relative to how he's been in his career. So I think right now is a good time to sell high on him, unless they feel that he is a part of their future. What do you think? Do you think Emmanuel Mudiay should be a part of their future or no?
I mean, I think they've been playing really well, but I think I would agree with you mostly to sell him, try to maybe use him as a trade chip in getting rid of Courtney Lee or Tim Hardaway. I know you said getting rid of open up cap space for 2 contracts would be very difficult, but even though it sounds to be very difficult, I do believe it's possible because Tim Hardaway Jr. has been playing okay. I do not think there are some teams who would be in use of his service. And then if you have Emmanuel Mudiay, he's another one who is up for his rookie contract is up this year. So the team, they're going to have to match whatever offer Moody gets out there, which would also hinder your chances of having 2 max spots. So I do think you should trade him and use him as a trade chip to, get rid of those 2 contracts. And my goal, if I would be the Knicks, would be have enough cap space so I could sign both Kevin Durant and Kemba Walker and then build around that. That would be my biggest goal and my biggest pitch if I was New York.
I mean, that's fair, but it would be really hard. What do you think of Tim Hardaway Jr. maybe as a part of their future, as a part of the Knicks' future? I mean, I know his efficiency hasn't been good, but he's been a very solid volume scorer. Do you think he makes sense as a part of their future?
I think he's going to make less sense if Kristaps comes back, if whoever they get, if they get R.J. Barrett, if they get Zion Williamson, Kevin Knox, all these players I think are scorers. They need the ball, and I don't think the great fit would be Tim Hardaway Jr. I think it's trying to get rid of him, see if you can get some cap space and really build around. I know we don't know anything, but there's a lot of hype, very similar in my opinion to the hype that Los Angeles was getting last year about LeBron James. So I do think that there is a high chance that Kevin Durant goes there. And if Kevin Durant goes there, I think it's much easier to get a Kemba Walker or someone else to join the team.
Fair enough. Okay. Let's move on to the Chicago Bulls. With the Chicago Bulls, trading Justin Holiday is probably their best New Year's resolution now, but in terms of New Year's resolutions for them, get Zion Williamson. I think that's what has to be on their mind. I know they have Wendell Carter Jr. there. I know they have Lauri Markkanen in there. Get Zion Williamson.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's why trading Justin Holiday has to be one of the top things. I think also trading Robin Lopez, who I heard is on the block, it has to be another. Even trading Jabari Parker, in my opinion, shouldn't be that difficult because it is only a 1-year contract, right? The second year is a player option. So I do think that a team like the Jazz or maybe the Indiana Pacers, who are in need of scoring, can take a chance on him without actually hurting their salary cap space because they don't actually have to pay him next year. So getting rid of Jabari, I would even put under getting rid of Zach LaVine if you could. Because he is playing well. I just don't think he's that great of a player, and I think if he is having games like he had last night when he was actually an efficient scorer and his trade values, it's not the highest, but it's pretty high. I think if you can get some young assets and then really do the best tank job possible to at least be one of those 3 teams that has the highest chances of getting Zion Williamson, okay? Because I do think that you are right, that Zion or R.J. Barrett are the answer to this team's future, and I think they really, as much as they messed up last year with tanking, they shouldn't do it this year and really get the best player that's out there.
What type of young assets would you want to get in return for Zach LaVine, though? He's shooting well. He's shooting efficiently. He's scoring 24 points a game. You don't think he's a part of this future?
I don't. I don't like his defense. I think he's, ball stops when it's with him. And I don't like those type of players. Very similar to Tim Hardaway Jr. These are one-on-one players who are not very, they don't run very good offenses. They're not really, it's not team basketball. So, no, I don't believe so. And I don't like the fact that they don't play defense very well. So I would rather see if I can get something for LaVine. Now, I understand that the Bulls like LaVine. They obviously paid him. They traded for him. But if I was a GM, that's what I would be looking to do.
Interesting. Okay.
All right, so another team that's probably not worth talking a lot about are the Atlanta Hawks. They are also on this bottom tier of teams, which any of those 4 teams we've just discussed can end up with the number 1 pick, just how bad they've been doing. I think, again, Zion Williamson would be a great fit in Atlanta, and everyone would love it. But what would you say, Daniel, are other wish lists?
Continuing the trend of selling, trade away, Jeremy Lin. You have Dedmon there. You could trade away Dwayne Dedmon. Both of those players are expiring contracts. Vince Carter, to a much lesser extent, he could still hit a 3-pointer. He's hitting about a 3-pointer and a half a game. Doesn't do much else. Provides you with good leadership. And Ken Bazemore, even though he's got 2 years remaining on his contract, if you could make a trade, specifically probably with Houston in exchange for Brandon Knight, where you receive a first-round pick, you do it. you get the deal done, and you don't look back twice. You get another draft asset. I mean, specifically, I know Houston's been playing well, but that's a pick that could potentially end up in the low 20s, high teens. So get it done.
Yeah, I mean, especially since they have been playing well, but Chris Paul is injured. We don't know how long he's going to be out for necessarily. So, yeah, I mean, it's getting rid of these assets. I mean, these players that are just, if anything, they're going to hurt you because they might help you win a game. So, like you said, a Dwayne Dedmon, get rid of him. There should be teams that will like him. I mean, obviously, you're not going to probably get more than any type of second-round pick, but still, get rid of him. See what you can get, and then continue to lose. I mean, I think that's the big thing, is continue to lose.
And I think specifically, if you could package Dedmon and Jeremy Lin and perhaps take back a contract that has another year on it, you could get a first-round pick. I think a good partner for them, at least with Jeremy Lin and probably maybe Dwayne Dedmon too, would be New Orleans, where you could take back a Solomon Hill who's on a bad contract with an additional year on it, and now you might be able just to get a first-round pick. New Orleans is pretty known to trade away their first-round picks every year. So if you could trade away Jeremy Lin, take back a Solomon Hill, and perhaps throw in a Charlotte's. They own Charlotte's second-round pick. Throw in Charlotte's second-round pick. You might just be able to entice New Orleans to trade away that first-round pick.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know if New Orleans would do it for those exact players, but maybe there is a chance they can get a first-round pick. I do think that New Orleans has to be. I think they're pretty sure that they're gonna have to get rid of Anthony Davis. So right now, I don't know if they would be willing to be giving up their picks. I think they're going to be a little bit more hesitant to do so.
Well, you could protect it, maybe put a lottery protection and convert it to 2 second-rounders if it.
Well, then is it worth it for the Hawks? Yeah, I mean, maybe, because the Hawks.
It's worth it to the Hawks.
The Pelicans would obviously probably not win.
Yeah, the Hawks are going to have a ton of cap space in 2019, and they're not getting free agents to come over there.
Of course.
So they're going to be one of the main teams looking like, hey, give me any dead cap you got. We'll take it. Give us a pick. We'll take the pick along with it. So why not start now? I mean, why not start by trading away guys like Kem Bazemore, like I said, and then Dwayne Dedmon, Jeremy Lin, and to a lesser extent, Vince Carter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with getting them. I just don't think they'll be able to get a first-round pick for these players.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I mean, we'll see. It depending on how much you take back, I guess, and depending on what teams are willing to give up.
All right, so let's move on to the Washington Wizards, who we have discussed a little bit. They're currently sitting at 13-22. Now, I think what I would argue is their wish list.
Real quick, let me ask you, because we haven't discussed this. What do you think of the Trevor Ariza trade?
Yeah, it made absolutely no sense to me. I thought the team was working on, disbanding this unit that has showed us that they can't really win, and then they go for it and trade Kelly Oubre and Austin Rivers for Trevor Ariza, who's 34. He has an expiring contract. I just didn't get the trade. I didn't get the point of it. I mean, I saw it from Phoenix's standpoint that they at least get a Kelly Oubre maybe it works out. I mean, he hasn't panned out to be the player that everyone wanted him to be, but he's still relatively young. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, it made no sense to me. I thought. Yeah, like you just said, Kelly Oubre, for better or for worse, he might be your only building block at this point. I mean, you have Troy Brown Jr. there, who they just selected in the first round. Obviously, Bradley Beal's a great building block. However, I mean, for my New Year's resolution for Washington is specifically now after this Trevor Ariza trade, which they showed. I mean, yes, granted, you could still trade him before the trade deadline, but you just can't combine them with other players, which is fine because there's easily a 1-for-1 deal out there that would work, that would make sense for Washington, especially with the draft pick coming back in return. However, I don't know. I mean, it looks like Washington is pretty hesitant in terms of fully rebuilding, which I fully think they should do, but with that being said, John Wall would be too hard to trade. You're not going to get a lot back for him because of his contract. Teams won't be willing to give up a lot in terms of good assets. similar to Otto Porter. So my goal for the Washington Wizards would be trading away Bradley